Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Power Chat. I'm Diane and I'll be sharing with you lots of the insights, strategies and shortcuts I've learned in my 30 years on a conscious journey. If you like what you hear tonight, please click hello, say hello, click share so other people can master their mindset and their emotions. And please, as we go along, if you have any questions or any comments, drop them into the comment box so that I can see them, and I'll come back and I'll answer your questions and look at your comments at the end of Power Chat. And tonight we've got a very special Power Chat which I was asked to do, and it's all about rejection. So why does rejection hurt so much? And what can we do about it when we get rejected? So let's jump straight in, shall we? Thank you for joining me, and off we go. So I'm sure each of us has felt the sting of rejection. It's pretty horrible, isn't it? Whether we've been left out of the cool group at school, or we didn't get that promotion that we wanted, or maybe the relationship that we thought was going so well ended abruptly, or we didn't get the award or the prize we trained so hard for. No matter what the circumstances, when we experience rejection, it hurts. It really hurts. But why is that? A large amount of research has revealed that the answer to this question lies in how our brain processes rejection. Many people describe rejection or the experience of being rejected as painful. It actually is gut-wrenching. And as it turns out, this description is more than just a metaphor. This is because rejection and physical pain are the same to our brain. Scientists have discovered that even though experiences of physical and social pain seem different from one another on the surface, the two experiences are actually very similar. People who are more sensitive to physical pain can be more sensitive to the pain of rejection, and vice versa. One kind of pain experience can actually alter the other type of pain experience in a congruent manner. So when you experience physical pain, the brain's natural pain-killing response kicks in by releasing opioids in the brain. This response also occurs for social pain, and the more opioids released, the greater the reduction in pain. So this explains why the most resilient people have brains that release significantly more opioids during social rejection. They're able to reduce the amount of pain they feel. So a prime example of that is probably Donald Trump. It doesn't matter how much that man is rejected across the world by millions of people, he just keeps going. He's like the Energizer Bunny. It's like he's releasing so many opioids in his brain whenever he experiences rejection, that he's numb to rejection. So it's interesting to watch this in yourself and in other people. It makes sense that our brains would have developed an adverse reaction to rejection. Rejection, in fact, would have served as a vital function in our evolutionary past. For our distant ancestors, being ostracized from the tribe would have equated to certain death, since it was so difficult to survive alone. So the brain likely developed an early warning system to alert us when we were at the risk of being rejected. Those who experienced rejection as more painful gained an evolutionary advantage, since they were more likely to adjust their behaviors and remain in the tribe. So the pain of rejection is likely to have evolved for survival reasons, so that we could survive. But these days we live in a very different world than the one our brains evolved for. Today, rejection is an inextricable part of life, but our brains are still wired for safety first. We suffer from what's called amygdala hijack, where our brain fires off neurons at the slightest indication of rejection. What it's doing is it's trying to keep us safe by sending a rush of fight or flight chemicals through our bodies, and we experience the pain of rejection and anxiety and stress when in fact it's not that big a deal. In today's world, the only way to avoid rejection is to avoid doing anything new, interesting, or remotely novel in any way. Which means if we want to create something new, we are bound to face rejection. It doesn't matter if we're creating a new business, a new product or service, we're creating a new career path or a relationship. We run the risk of being rejected by someone, somewhere, at some time. Some people like to think of rejection as another person's projection of their own inadequacies. That by talking bad about others, they feel better about themselves. If you've experienced this type of rejection, and most of us have, ask yourself, what is the skill, the talent, the ability that you have that they don't? And then let it shine, even in the face of rejection, because it will rewire your brain. This takes courage. I know it takes courage, but as Paulo Coelho wrote in manuscript from Accra, your enemies are not the adversaries who were put there to test your courage. They are the cowards who were put there to test your weaknesses. I love that definition. In my own life, I had my own massive catastrophic moment of rejection and humiliation when I worked at Conrad Jupiter's Casino many years ago. And I refused the sexual advances from my producer, which of course at that time particularly was like poking the bear. And I made a very, very a powerful enemy at that stage. And so what he did is he terminated my contract, saying that I was too fat, which was untrue, but that was the reason. So I took him to court for unfair and discriminatory dismissal. So I made a stand and I found the courage and I did all of those things. But the newspapers found out about it and I was splashed across all the front pages as fat dancer sacked, and it was just so humiliating, and I felt such rejection. I was totally publicly rejected. And even though the commissioner at the time reinstated me because there were no grounds for my dismissal, the rejection was raw and it hurt because I'd been rejected by the man who had the most power in my life at that time, and I'd done nothing wrong. So that set up a whole range of different beliefs and toxic emotions in my body at that time. So let's move on, shall we? So some people think of rejection as protection, which can often only be seen in hindsight. I'm sure you've looked back over your life and you can appreciate that maybe you're better off now that that particular thing didn't happen, even though at the time you felt terribly rejected by it. When we do this is using rejection as a personal development tool. And it's a personal development tool for our success. But it does take a shift of perspective at the time when you're in rejection to actually look at rejection through those hindsight eyes and appreciate it for protection. And that's what happened to me. The producer sacked me a second time when I was on sick leave, and I went back to court and I stood up, and there again were no grounds for my dismissal. However, the commissioner decided not to reinstate me because of health reasons. He was really concerned for my health. And at the time, that was just the worst rejection I could think of. Like I'd lost everything, my job, my identity, money, everything. However, in hindsight, I can see that in fact, that rejection was protection, because allowing me to be reinstated and sending me back into that toxic situation with the producer could have had really dire consequences. So let's dig just a little bit deeper into rejection, because if we're honest with ourselves, time to be honest with ourselves, rejection happens when we look for validation outside of ourselves because of our own lack of value. We're trying to get somebody else to give us the applause, to give us the tick, that we're a good girl or we're a good boy, but we're looking outside of ourselves for validation. When we find ways to activate and energize our self-worth and our value, our reality presents less rejection events. It's the law of attraction. So we create our own reality through the energy that we resonate moment by moment. So when we start to value ourselves more and we see our own worth, we find that the universe, that our reality configures in our favor and actually mirrors back to us that self-worth and that self-value. And so all of those rejection events start to diminish. There are also several personal development and coaching tools that can help shift the limiting beliefs and the trapped emotions that are there from rejection events from the past. But for now, how do we deal with rejection? The first way is to accept that rejection will hurt. We just have to accept that rejection will hurt. Being realistic and accepting that doing anything hard and worthwhile will have some pain associated with it is all part of the process. We know that. We know that we can't please everybody all the time. Okay, somebody's going to reject us. But we also know that the feelings will eventually subside. Our brain copes with emotional rejection over time, just as it does with physical pain. The brain can make new neural connections over time. The second thing we can do is, interestingly enough, is increase our pain threshold through repeated exposure. Now, understand that the brain adapts to whatever it experiences repeatedly. Okay, we all know, we've all seen this, there might be a guy at the bar who's hitting on all of the girls at the bar, right? And nothing deters him, not the indifference, not the insults the girls might give him, not the drinks thrown in his face, nothing. Every rejection bounces off him because he's experienced so many before. Rejection just doesn't hurt him as much. Why? Because his brain has adapted to it. Okay? Therefore, one way to learn to overcome rejection is to experience a lot of it. And you're thinking, oh no, I don't want any more of it, but hear me out. Once you get over the initial pain, you will start to become more and more numb to the effects of rejection. I often say to people, see rejection as a great big hug. There's another hug, there's another hug. Okay? What we can do is we can practice doing things that will guarantee some rejection, but have relatively low stakes, such as asking maybe for a discount on the meal you've got at a restaurant, or asking strangers for a favor, or trying to raise money for a charity, or something along those lines. Whatever you do, do it regularly and do it enough that the pain of rejection slowly loses its sting. The third thing we can do is we can reframe rejection. Many people personalize rejection, assuming that the reason that they are being rejected is that they are personally flawed in some way. In truth, most of the time, rejection has more to do with the person doing the rejection. Think about it. Think about times you've rejected others. It might be, the charity muggers that grab you at the train station asking for money and you're dodging them because, you don't want to give them money. It's not that you think there's something wrong with them as human beings. You're just rejecting giving them money, okay? However, there are times, and we know that rejection can be personal. And in these cases, we often mistakenly buy into the personal criticism that accompanies the rejection. We believe the rejection is warranted because of our own lack of self-value and self-worth, instead of questioning the validity of the person doing the rejecting. Think about that for a while. So take this Do this simple thought experiment with me. Let's say you've walked into a mental institution and you've met a patient who immediately exclaims that you're the second coming of Jesus Christ and you deserve all the praise and the honor in the world. And would that make you feel good about yourself? Conversely, if you met another patient who thought you were the Antichrist and demanded you leave, would you feel rejected and humiliated? Hopefully not. This is because you don't actually believe either patient and what they're saying about you. Similarly, many of the people that reject us have their own problems and rationalizations that lead them to reject us. We must be more discerning and not give too much weight to such personal rejection. We must stop. I often say, if you would not ask advice from that person, why would you listen to their criticism? Think about it. The fourth thing we can do is we can rewire the brain, and that's the really exciting part. Much like physical pain, our social pain is dependent on our interpretation of the events that we experience. This means that the meaning we give to rejection is critical to the amount of pain we experience as a result. That's why I said before, if you see rejection as hugs, there's not much pain to a hug. Most people are familiar with the placebo effect, okay? It's a fact that our experience of physical pain can be dramatically reduced by our beliefs. Many people have reported being cured of crippling chronic pain due to sham surgeries that are nothing more than the placebo effect. You see, belief has a powerful effect when it comes to physical pain, and the effect, belief itself, has probably even more power when it comes to our psychological pain. Just like the placebo effect influences our experience of physical pain, our beliefs about rejection affect the level of our psychological pain we experience in moments of rejection. If we can change our beliefs and rewire our brain, we can change the way we feel. So summing up, our ability to cope with rejection is directly related to how well we, 1, shift our perspective regarding our self-worth and our self-value, 2, how well we reframe rejection and see it as a personal development tool for future success, 3, how well we rewire our brain by removing limiting beliefs, 4, by taking new actions that anchor in the new beliefs, and 5, how well we choose for feel-good feelings that energize our new beliefs. The sooner we learn to cope with rejection more effectively, the sooner we can achieve our goals and create extraordinary results in our lives, businesses, and careers. So, who have we got here? Rachel's here. Hi, Rachel. Love the notion of reframing. Yes, it's very powerful. It's very, very powerful to reframe how you see it. But also at the same time, we must understand that we have wiring, that our brain is wired to actually see rejection as a safety tool, that it will keep us safe. So we need to rewire and reframe that we don't need that level of safety anymore in this particular world. Anything else? Okay, so I'm going to sign off now. So thank you very much for joining me. I'll see you next time.